The coffee shop on Fifth Street looked perfectly ordinary that Tuesday morning, its windows fogged with Seattle's persistent drizzle. Maya Rodriguez pressed her nose against the glass, watching droplets race down the surface while her mother finished another heated phone call about deadlines and client expectations. At 8 years old, Maya had learned that adult conversations were mostly about things that made people frown. "Just 5 more minutes, Mia," her mother whispered, covering the phone's mouthpiece. Maya nodded and returned to her game of counting raindrops, unaware that 3 blocks away, concealed within what appeared to be a derelict warehouse, the Silthara research vessel Temporal Nexus was conducting its final experiment of a 30-year study on human developmental patterns. Dr. Elena Vasquez had been monitoring these experiments for 2 decades, ever since she'd been read into the Eternal Compact program. As Earth's primary xenanthropologist liaison, she understood the delicate balance that kept humanity safe. The Silthara's reverence for the becoming made them protective of developing species, but their scientific curiosity sometimes pushed dangerous boundaries. "Initiate temporal field mapping," senior researcher Kethmer announced aboard the vessel, his crystalline form pulsing with anticipation. The Silthara had evolved beyond physical bodies millennia ago, existing as pure consciousness within living crystal matrices. Their reverence for biological growth stemmed from their own lost childhood. They could barely remember what it felt like to change, to become something new. The temporal field generator hummed to life, creating an invisible bubble that was supposed to remain contained within the warehouse. But a miscalculation in the field geometry, a fault in the containment matrix that had gone unnoticed for months, caused the field to expand beyond its intended boundaries. Maya felt the world shimmer around her. The coffee shop seemed to breathe, walls expanding and contracting like living tissue. Her mother's voice became distant, echoing as if from the bottom of a well. Then pain, not physical, but something deeper, as if time itself was pulling her apart and putting her back together. "Maya! Maya!" Her mother's voice snapped back into focus. "You looked so strange for a moment, Mia. Are you feeling all right?" Maya blinked, confused. She felt ... different. Older somehow, as if she'd lived through something important, but she couldn't remember what. "I'm fine, Mama, just tired." But Maya wasn't fine. As they walked home, she began to notice things that didn't make sense. Her reflection in store windows showed a girl who looked exactly like her, but sometimes seemed to be wearing different clothes. Street signs appeared to flicker between different names. Most disturbing of all, she could swear she remembered having this exact conversation with her mother before, multiple times. Meanwhile, aboard the Temporal Nexus, alarms began screaming. The field readings showed an impossible result: a human child caught in a temporal recursion loop, aging forward 24 hours before snapping back to her original temporal position. In 3,000 years of research, they had never seen anything like it. Kethmer's crystal form flared with horror. "Contact the Dominion immediately. We have committed the unthinkable. We have trapped a youngling in eternal childhood, prevented her from experiencing the becoming." The message traveled faster than light to the Silthara homeworld, where the Council of Whispers received it with mounting fury. To trap a child in perpetual immaturity was the gravest sin their species could imagine. The Eternal Compact was void. Humanity would face the cleansing. Dr. Vasquez's secure communication device chimed with an emergency alert. As she read the message, her hands trembled. After 3 millennia of peace, humanity had exactly 72 hours before the Silthara fleet arrived to sterilize Earth. The war for humanity's survival would begin with one confused little girl who couldn't understand why she kept living the same day over and over again. Maya woke up to her mother shaking her gently, sunlight streaming through her bedroom window. "Time for school, Mia." She sat up, rubbing her eyes, and felt that strange sensation again, the feeling that she had lived this moment before. Multiple times. The digital clock read 7:23 a.m., just as it had yesterday, and the day before, and the day before that. "Mama," she said slowly, "what day is it?" "Tuesday, October 15th. "Why?" Maya's stomach dropped. It was always Tuesday, October 15th. She had been living this day for how long? She couldn't remember. Every night she went to sleep, and every morning she woke up to the same day. But somehow, impossibly, she was beginning to remember the previous loops at school. She watched her classmates like a scientist observing specimens. Tommy Chun would spill chocolate milk on his shirt at exactly 11:47 a.m. Jessica Martinez would get sent to the principal's office for talking back to Mrs. Henderson at 2:15 p.m. The fire drill would happen at 3:20 p.m., and Maya would line up behind. The same boy who smelled like peanut butter sandwiches. But while everyone else remained trapped in their scripted day, Maya was becoming something else. With each loop, she retained more memories, gained more understanding of the patterns around her. She began to see time not as a river flowing forward, but as a vast ocean she could navigate. Dr. Elena Vasquez hadn't slept in 3 days. Her secure facility beneath the University of Washington buzzed with activity as she worked frantically to understand what had happened to Maya Rodriguez. The temporal readings were unlike anything in the scientific literature. The child existed in a stable paradox, aging exactly 24 hours before reverting to her original state. "She's not just living the same day," Elena explained to her assistant, Dr. Marcus Webb, as they studied the quantum signatures. "She's accumulating experiences across iterations. Her consciousness is becoming temporally non-linear." Marcus frowned at the data. That should be impossible. The human brain isn't designed to process recursive temporal information. "Maybe not the human brain as we know it," Elena murmured. "But Maya Rodriguez isn't entirely human anymore, is she?" Above Earth's atmosphere, the Silthara fleet emerged from hyperspace like a plague of crystal stars. 12 motherships, each the size of Manhattan, accompanied by hundreds of smaller vessels designed for what they called world cleansing. The Silthara had only performed a cleansing 3 times in their recorded history, always when another species had violated the fundamental laws of natural development. Fleet. Commander Zethra materialized in the command center of the lead mothership, her crystal form pulsing with cold fury. "Status report. The temporal anomaly continues," reported Science Officer Valinith. "The human youngling remains trapped in recursive time. Each cycle, she experiences the same day, but her consciousness appears to be evolving." "Evolving?" Zethra's form flared brighter. "You mean she's suffering additional torment?" "Unknown, Commander. Her neural patterns suggest she's becoming something unprecedented, a being capable of true temporal perception." Zethra considered this. In their 3,000 years of studying human development, they had never encountered anything like this. Children were meant to grow, to change, to experience the sacred journey from innocence to understanding. To trap one in eternal childhood was blasphemy, but if that child was somehow transcending normal temporal limitations. "Maintain position," she ordered. "Before we proceed with the cleansing, I want to understand what the human child is becoming." Maya sat in her bedroom that evening, staring at the same homework assignment she had completed hundreds of times. But tonight was different. Tonight, she could feel something vast and terrible approaching from the stars. Something that wanted to hurt her family, her friends, her entire world. She closed her eyes and let her consciousness drift across the temporal loops she had lived. In some iterations, she had tried to warn her mother about the coming danger. In others, she had attempted to contact the authorities. But in every loop, she remained a child whose words carried no weight. Tonight, however, she would try something different. Tonight, She would reach out to the only person on Earth who might understand what she was becoming. Dr. Vasquez, she whispered into the darkness, focusing all her strange new abilities on this one moment. I need your help. And I think I might be humanity's only chance. Across the city, Elena Vasquez bolted upright in her chair as Maya's voice echoed impossibly through her laboratory, accompanied by a temporal distortion that made the air itself shimmer. The child was learning to manipulate time itself. Dr. Elena Vasquez's laboratory existed in a space. Between spaces, a reinforced bunker beneath the University of Washington that had been constructed during the Cold War and later retrofitted with technology that most humans couldn't comprehend. The walls hummed with quantum dampeners designed to prevent temporal anomalies from affecting the surrounding area. But even these sophisticated systems couldn't entirely contain the distortions. Radiating from Maya Rodriguez, Maya sat across from Elena in what looked like an ordinary conference room, except for the fact that she occasionally flickered slightly out of phase with reality. Sometimes she appeared as the 8-year-old girl she had been 5 days ago, and sometimes Elena caught glimpses of something else, a being whose eyes held the weight of countless repeated experiences. You're not aging, Elena observed, making notes on a tablet that kept glitching every time Maya shifted temporally. But you're accumulating knowledge and memories across iterations. How many loops have you experienced? Maya's expression was eerily mature for someone trapped in a child's body. I stopped counting after 300. Time isn't linear for me anymore. Dr. Vasquez, I can see the patterns past, present, and future all layered together like transparent photographs. And you can see the Silthara fleet? They're beautiful and terrible, Maya said softly, like living stars filled with rage. They believe they're protecting something sacred by destroying us. Elena leaned forward. What do you see when you look at them? Loss, Maya replied immediately. They're mourning something they'll never have again. They evolved beyond childhood so long ago that they've forgotten what it feels like to grow, to change, to become something new. That's why they revere thee. Becoming so much, it's the most precious thing they can imagine because they can't experience it themselves. The insight struck Elena like a physical blow. In 20 years of studying Silthara psychology, she had never understood them as clearly as this temporally displaced child did. Maya wasn't just accumulating memories. She was developing a form of empathy that transcended normal human limitations. Maya, Elena said carefully, I need you to do something that might be dangerous. I need you to try to communicate with them. Maya nodded as if she had been expecting this request. I've been trying to reach them for the last 50 loops. They can sense my temporal distortions, but they interpret them as proof of my suffering. They think I'm crying out in pain. Aren't you? Maya was quiet for a long moment. At first I was. Living the same day over and over, watching everyone I love repeat the same actions, knowing that tomorrow would never come, it was torture. But then I started to understand that I wasn't trapped in time. I was free from it. Above them, the Silthara fleet maintained its holding pattern, but Elena could see the tension building in their communications. Fleet Commander Zethra was under enormous pressure from the Dominion Council to proceed with the cleansing. Every moment they delayed was seen as weakness, as a failure to uphold the sacred laws that had governed their civilization for millennia. They're running out of patience, Elena said, monitoring the encrypted transmissions. Commander Zethra has been given a final ultimatum: begin a cleansing within 6 hours, or face replacement by someone who will. Maya stood up, and for a moment, Elena saw her as she truly was, not a child, but a being who existed partially. Outside normal space-time, her consciousness spread across hundreds of temporal iterations. Then we need to show them that I'm not suffering. We need to show them that I'm becoming something they thought was impossible. What do you mean? Dr. Vasquez, Maya said, her voice carrying harmonics that seemed to come from multiple timelines. Simultaneously, I need you to help me prove to the Silthara that growth doesn't always happen the way they expect. Sometimes the most profound becoming happens when you break the rules entirely. Kalena felt a chill run down her spine. Maya, what are you planning? I'm going to show them that consciousness can evolve in ways they never imagined. That a human child can become something unprecedented, a temporal being capable of existing across multiple timelines simultaneously, experiencing growth not through linear aging, but through accumulated wisdom and understanding. The risk is necessary, Maya interrupted, because if I can prove to them that I'm not trapped in eternal childhood, but instead experiencing a new form of becoming, they might understand that humanity isn't inherently destructive to natural development. We're just different. Elena stared at the child who was no longer entirely a child. What do you need me to do? Contact Fleet Commander Zethra. Tell her that the human youngling requests an audience. And tell her that I have something to show her about the true nature of becoming. Maya's form flickered again, and Elena realized she was looking at someone who had already lived through this conversation dozens of times, who knew exactly how it would end, and who was prepared to risk everything to save a world that would never fully understand what she had sacrificed for it. The communication array crackled to life, and Elena began composing the most important message in human history. Asterisk. Fleet Commander Zethra materialized in the pristine white chamber aboard her mothership, her crystalline form casting prismatic patterns across the walls. The space had been configured to accommodate the unprecedented meeting she was about to conduct, the first direct communication between a Silthara commander and a human child in 3,000 years of coexistence. The temporal distortions emanating from Maya Rodriguez were visible even through the ship's advanced shielding, creating ripples in space-time that made the air itself shimmer. When Maya appeared via quantum transmission, Zethra's form flared with surprise. The child looked exactly as she had 5 days ago, 8 years old, with dark hair and curious eyes, but there was something else present, something that existed in the spaces between moments. Youngling, Zethra spoke, her voice carrying the weight of 3 millennia of authority. You have been grievously wronged. The researcher who caused your temporal imprisonment will face the highest punishment our law allows. Maya tilted her head, and for a moment, Zethra saw dozens of overlapping images, the same child from countless different timelines, each carrying slightly different experiences. Commander Zethra, I need you to understand something. I'm not imprisoned. You repeat the same day endlessly. You cannot experience the becoming. You are trapped in eternal childhood. I am experiencing the becoming, Maya said gently. Just not the way you expected. Maya raised her hand, and the air around her began to shift. Zethra watched in amazement as temporal echoes became visible ghostly images of Maya from different iterations, each one slightly different, each one carrying new knowledge and understanding. In your conception of becoming, Maya continued, growth happens through linear time. Child becomes adolescent, becomes adult. But what if consciousness can evolve in other ways? What if wisdom can accumulate across temporal iterations, rather? And through aging? Zethra's crystalline form pulsed with confusion. This is not natural development. This is aberration. Is it? Maya asked. Commander, when did your species last experience true growth? When did you last become something genuinely new, rather than just more of what you already were? The question struck Zethra like a physical blow. The Silthara had achieved evolutionary perfection millions of years ago, ascending beyond physical form to become pure consciousness. But Maya was right. They had not grown in any meaningful sense for eons. They had become static, frozen in their own form of eternal childhood. You transcended biological development. Maya said, her voice carrying harmonics from multiple timelines. But you stopped growing. You became observers of becoming rather than participants in it. That's why you revere it so much, because you can't experience it yourselves. Maya began to walk around the chamber, and Zethra realized she was seeing not one child, but dozens of them, each from a different temporal iteration. I am becoming something that has never existed before. A human consciousness capable of existing across multiple timelines simultaneously. Every loop teaches me something new about the nature of time, of reality, of what it means to be alive. This is impossible, Zethra protested, but her certainty was wavering. Your own science confirms it, Maya replied. I know you've been monitoring me. You've seen the neural patterns, the quantum signatures. I'm not trapped in child. I'm experiencing childhood across infinite variations, extracting wisdom and understanding from each iteration. Maya stopped walking and faced Zethra directly. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of hundreds of lived experiences. I have become something your species thought was impossible. A being who grows not through linear time, but through accumulated consciousness. I am proof that development can take forms you never imagined. Zethra's form flickered with uncertainty. Even if this is true, the treaty was broken. The natural order was violated. The natural order was expanded, Maya corrected. Your researchers didn't trap me in a temporal loop. They accidentally created a new form of existence. I am still experiencing the becoming, just not the way your laws define it. The chamber fell silent, except for the gentle hum of the ship's systems. Zethra found herself facing a paradigm that challenged everything the Silthara had believed about development and growth. What do you propose? Zethra asked finally. Maya's form solidified, and for a moment she looked like nothing more than an ordinary 8-year-old girl. Give me time to show you what I can become. Let me prove that this new form of existence is not a violation of the natural order, but an expansion of it. And if I can demonstrate that my condition represents genuine growth rather than stagnation, perhaps the Eternal Compact can be renewed. The Dominion Council will never accept this, Zethra warned. Then we'll have to show them something they can't ignore, Maya said. And suddenly, Zethra realized she was looking at a being who had already seen this conversation play out across multiple timelines, who knew exactly what would happen next, and who was prepared to risk everything to prevent the destruction of her species. What do you need from me? Zethra asked. 24 hours, Maya replied. 1 full day to demonstrate what I've become. And Commander? You're going to want to contact the Council of Whispers. They're going to need to see this. The Council of Whispers convened in a space that existed between dimensions, where the most ancient and powerful Silthara consciousnesses gathered to deliberate on matters that affected their entire civilization. 7 beings older than recorded history materialized as towering crystal formations, their forms pulsing with the accumulated wisdom of millions of years. Maya Rodriguez stood before them, but she was no longer the 8-year-old girl who had been caught in a temporal field 5 days ago. She had become something unprecedented, a human consciousness that existed across multiple timelines simultaneously. Her awareness spread through hundreds of temporal iterations while remaining anchored in her original form. Eldest ones, Maya began, her voice carrying harmonics from across spacetime. I stand before you not as a victim of your research, but as proof that consciousness can evolve in ways you never imagined. The eldest, a being whose crystal form had witnessed the birth of stars, spoke with a voice like distant thunder. Child not child, you claim to experience the becoming while trapped in temporal recursion. This contradiction challenges our fundamental understanding of natural development. Maya raised her hand, and the space around her began to shimmer. The council watched in amazement as temporal echoes became visible, not just different versions, of Maya, but different versions of reality itself. In some iterations, she had become a scientist, studying the nature of time. In others, she had become a philosopher, exploring the meaning of existence. In still others, she had become a bridge between species, using her unique perspective to foster understanding. In your conception of becoming, Maya said, growth happens through linear progression. But what if consciousness can evolve through accumulated experience rather than through aging? What if wisdom can be gained not just through time, but through multiple perspectives on the same moment? The second eldest, whose form glowed with the soft light of ancient knowledge, leaned forward. Show us, temporal child. Demonstrate this new form of becoming. Maya closed her eyes, and suddenly the chamber was filled with cascading images, hundreds of variations of the same day, each one teaching her something new about the nature of existence. The council watched as she absorbed knowledge from every iteration, becoming more than the sum of her experiences. I have lived through the same day 847 times, Maya said. Her consciousness now spread across multiple timelines simultaneously. In each iteration, I have learned something new about myself, about humanity, about the nature of time itself. I have become a being capable of experiencing multiple realities simultaneously, of understanding the interconnectedness of all possible outcomes. The third eldest pulsed with curiosity. And what have you learned, child of many moments? That growth is not about moving forward through time, Maya replied. It's about expanding consciousness, about becoming more than you were before. Your species stopped growing because you believed that transcending physical form meant transcending the need for becoming. But I have discovered that consciousness itself can continue to evolve, can continue to become something new. Maya opened her eyes, and the council saw that she was looking at them not just as they were, but as they had been and as they could become. You have forgotten how to grow because you have forgotten that becoming is not about reaching a destination. It's about the journey itself. The fourth eldest, youngest of the ancient beings, spoke with a voice tinged with wonder. You propose that your condition represents not stagnation, but acceleration, not a prevention of becoming, but a new form of it. Exactly, Maya said. I have become something that has never existed before a human consciousness, capable of existing across multiple timelines, of experiencing growth not through linear time, but through accumulated wisdom and understanding. I am proof that the universe is capable of creating new forms of existence that transcend your current understanding of natural development. The council deliberated in silence, their crystalline forms pulsing with shared thoughts too complex for human understanding. Finally, the eldest spoke. Maya Rodriguez, child of many moments, bridge between timelines, you have shown us something we thought impossible. You have demonstrated that consciousness can evolve in ways we never imagined. That becoming can take forms that transcend our ancient laws. Maya felt a shift in the temporal currents around her. Does this mean the eternal compact is not merely renewed, the eldest announced. It is transformed. Humanity has proven capable of achieving forms of development that expand our understanding of what it means to become. Your species will be granted not just preservation, but partnership in exploring these new frontiers of consciousness. Maya smiled, and for the first time in hundreds of iterations, she felt the weight of infinite tomorrows instead of endless yesterdays. And me? What happens to me? You, temporal child, will become something unprecedented, the first ambassador. Between linear and non-linear consciousness, a bridge between species that experience becoming in different ways. Your unique perspective will help both our peoples understand new forms of growth and development. As the council dispersed, Maya felt the temporal loops that had defined her existence begin to shift. She would no longer be trapped in the same day, but she would retain her ability to exist across multiple timelines. She had become something new, not human, not Silthara, but something that transcended both species. Dr. Elena Vasquez, monitoring from Earth, watched as the Silthara fleet began to withdraw. The crisis was over, but more than that, humanity had gained something unprecedented. They had gained a future where growth and becoming could take forms that no one had ever imagined. Maya Rodriguez returned to Earth, forever changed, carrying within her consciousness the wisdom of countless timelines and the hope of infinite possibilities. She had saved her species not through warfare or diplomacy, but by proving that the universe was capable of creating new forms of existence that transcended all previous understanding. The treaty had lasted millennia, but now it would last forever, not as a static agreement, but as a living document that could evolve and grow just as consciousness itself continued to become something new. Asterisk.